the birds are coming for us all. They say I'm running out of ideas for intros for these videos. I don't know, maybe someone says that, I don't know, maybe not. Okay, over halfway through Series 12 now with Episode 6, Praxeus. Still can't get over just how similar that name is to a title of a future episode I'm going to do, but okay, never mind. I swear, I've still not found where the BBC is like wiretapped my bedroom or something. I've still not found them. I swear they've got an outlet in here somewhere and they're just feeding off my thoughts. Damn you, BBC! So obviously after last week's slap to the face of an episode, but in a good way, this one was never really going to live up to the standards of Fugitive of the Jadoon, but then again, I don't think anything ever could. So this one did end up being a bit more of a bog standardy kind of Doctor Who episode. Kind of in the same vein as, I mean, the closest other thing that we've had to this episode in this series has been Orphan 55, although this one I think is better. This one is kind of a bit more bog standard in the same vein as Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, although this one, Praxeus, is a bit more unusual of an episode. It's not quite so standard, whereas Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror was, although it was really good, it was kind of your bog standard Doctor Who episode, but done really well. So yeah, this is the one that people were rumouring about like a while before Series 12 started. Actually, I think there's rumours about this episode being about plastic waste. So yeah, this is the plastic waste episode. So we've had an episode warning us about using social media with Spyfall. We've had an episode about global warming. We had 2 good episodes after that, and now we've got an episode about plastic waste. And they say Doctor Who's getting too PC. Listen, if you want PC Doctor Who, just watch the Monster Peladon and watch any scene between Queen Thurila, whatever the hell her name was, and Sarah Jane about feminism. Trust me, it's always been like this. They've just made it a lot more less subtle in recent years. Jesus Christ, that sentence nearly didn't make sense. So yeah, this one was, again, a step down from last week, although that was almost inevitable given just how high last week set the bar. So, yeah, basically a message about not polluting the oceans with plastic, pretty much. It is kind of a, it's supposed to be kind of a message to people, telling them about this issue in the world right now. Like Orphan 55, although this one is, woven into the actual plot a lot better. It's still pretty obvious that that's what they're going for, the whole don't dump plastic in the ocean message, but at least they, put it in the plot better, and it isn't anywhere near as ham-fisted and roundhouse kicked on the nose as the delivery of Orphan 55's environmental message was, so that's good. That's probably one of the main pluses of this one over Orphan 55. I kind of feel bad slagging off Orphan 55 because it was written by Ed Heim, who wrote my favourite episode of Series 11, but what the hell. So yeah, the whole thing about this virus that infected this other planet. So these aliens got really desperate, brought the virus to Earth, and tried to use Earth as basically a huge testing lab to try and find an antidote for this thing. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't think we've seen much of that in Doctor Who before. That's better. So that was a bit new, not something we've touched on a whole lot with this franchise, to my knowledge, anyway. The whole thing about this virus sort of latching onto plastic and thriving on it, and of course we have a crap ton of plastic, that's the whole reason the Autons love invading us and everything. That's quite well done. It's using, the whole plastic waste issue that we have, building a proper good plot around it, rather than just tacking on a message at the end of an episode about humans being shitty and that we should stop doing certain things. And yeah, the whole thing, I didn't know that this is a thing. I assume this is like factually correct, but humans having like microplastics inside us because of, we can never fully biodegrade a lot of our plastic, so we end up drinking tiny particles of it in water and stuff. I'm assuming that's scientifically, a scientifically accurate fact or something or other that they researched. Because I didn't know that. That's kind of interesting. But anyway, that was pretty good, I'd say. These videos are really hard for me, considering I never really have much of an opinion on anything. This episode is kind of similar to certain episodes of Series 11, where there isn't necessarily a main or fixed villain as such as well. It's one of those ones where it's kind of, well, there isn't really a main villain, it's more sort of scenarios that have happened by chance that are causing these problems. Kind of similar to the spiders and arachnids in the UK. So yeah, I guess the closest thing we had, I mean, we had those scientists and the gas masks who I guess were technically kind of good guys in a way. I don't know, they were just sort of there in the end. We had the swarm of birds, but they were more victims of this virus. You can't really call the virus a villain unless it has an intelligence, like the Mind of Destruction, the second episode of my fan series, if you want to go check that out. Shameless self-promotion. So I guess if you eliminate all of that, the main villain was probably Suki, that alien woman, who, yeah, did turn out to be an alien in the end. That kind of came out of nowhere, actually, her being the villain. She wasn't really out in the open as the villain once she'd revealed herself really long enough for it to have any lasting impact as such, gonna be honest. Kind of like with Charlie and Kablan from last series, you know, he just sort of got revealed to be the villain in the last, like, 6 minutes of the episode, and then they wrapped it up in, like, 3 minutes afterwards. Again, kind of similar to, like, Arachnids in the UK, where it's not really a main villain, it's just sort of scenarios that have happened kind of by chance, and now we've got to fix, you know, the aftermath of this crap. So yeah, there could have been a good opportunity for the Sea Devils to come back in this one, actually. They might have made this episode a bit better, come to think of it, if they put the Sea Devils in. Or just any kind of main villain, you know, just something that we can look at and say, okay, so you're pretty much the main cause of all this then. But yeah, I mean, it was different, it was new, something that's not been done all that much, I don't think. Yeah, anyway, all in all, pacing was maybe a little bit iffy in places, and I thought, you know, it's kind of weird actually. I wouldn't say it was incredibly fast paced as such, apart from a few little actiony scenes here and there. It was kind of a slower paced, dull-ish. It was weird. It was kind of like 2001: Space Odyssey. It's kind of dull, but it's a really entertaining kind of dull that you don't really mind how dull it is. Does that make sense? I don't know. It was kind of like that. And like the first half an hour just kind of flew by for me. I don't know if that was just me, but that went really quickly. So yeah, the pacing was a little bit iffy. That's something else that it has in common with Orphan 55, although I guess it was a bit better here than it was back then, so I guess that's something. You know, if I was going to do kind of a series ranking, this one, Praxeus, although it was decent, it probably would be the second worst episode of the series, or second least favourite anyway. I mean, I have liked all of them, but I do recognise the flaws of the ones that people are complaining about the most. You know, if I was going to do a ranking, I probably would do from least to most favourite: Orphan 55, Praxeus, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, Spyfall Parts 1 and 2, put them together, and then the Did You Do an episode from last week. But yeah, plot pretty decent, political/environmental message. Although they are kind of annoying sometimes when they do put them in episodes, it is important to have them in, and it was done better than Orphan 55 at least, so that's good. A little disappointed about those Sea Devils, but what can you do? We've already had the fucking Jadoon, the Master, the Cybermen are coming back, Captain Jack, and the whole bloody Ruth Doctor plot twist, so you can't expect everything from a series now, can you? Anyway, yeah, plot was good. I think that's probably all I want to say in terms of the episode's sort of plot and the villain. I guess you call them villains, I suppose. Yeah. One other thing I want to say, I think the ending was a bit rushed. It was kind of, yeah, you know, solved a bit too quickly and a bit too easily. Overall, apart from a few minor nitpicks, that was quite well done. Really good. Well, I say really good. Pretty decent, anyway. I think it was a good average. Right, in terms of characters, let's get on to them. Okay, first of all, main cast, yeah, really good. The Doctor in this one sort of went back into her overly exposition-giving, chatty personality like she had for a lot of Series 11 in a lot of scenes in this one. It wasn't completely overbearing like it was in, say, Saranja Conundrum, however the fuck you pronounce that episode, where she literally gives like a 3-minute speech about how she adores the antimatter generator. I love this engine because this engine is amazing. That was the worst northern accent you'll ever hear in your life, probably. So yeah, she was quite chatty in this. That wasn't too overbearing though. But I think, yeah, the Doctor is still going pretty strong this series. Companions, Ryan had quite a nice little bit to himself sort of towards the beginning, so that was nice. He did fall back into the background a bit more once we got further through the episode though. Graham is kind of just there for comic relief for the most part, really, isn't he? And a few emotional moments here and there. It'd be nice to see him do some more things actively at some point, though. So perhaps give Graham a little bit more to do sometimes. Yaz is actually getting stuff to do this time round. It kind of did come out of nowhere when she said she wants to go back with that, like, Brazilian woman or whatever the hell she was to investigate the warehouse while the rest of them go off and do something else. That was kind of sudden, but I appreciate that they are giving her something to do. She's finally doing stuff for herself! That would probably be one of the main pluses of this episode. Actually, it's one of the rare instances where Yaz actually gets proper stuff, pardon me, to do. If he does have a few more, episodes like that in the future, that'll be great. But yeah, one thing I do have a problem with is I find it incredibly hard to believe that Graham and Ryan don't know what a pathogen is, and the Doctor has to explain it to them. I guess they only did that so the Doctor could, teach people what a pathogen is. Sort of going back to the roots of Doctor Who, where it would be an educational show where you'd learn about history one week and you'd learn a little bit of sciencey stuff the next, sort of thing. I guess that was one of those moments, because she literally explains what a pathogen is in a few sentences after they say they don't know what it is. I mean, I get why they did that, but I just thought it was really weird that neither of them know what that is. I thought that was like really common knowledge. I mean, especially Ryan. I mean, come on. What is he, like 19, 20 years old at the most? Something like that, I don't know. He was only in school a few years ago, probably. Did he really not learn what a pathogen was? I don't know, Graham, maybe, given how he's, like, older. Maybe they didn't teach that sort of stuff when he was at school in, like, the 70s or whatever. I don't know. Kind of a minor nitpick that kind of put me off for a minute. But, yeah, anyway. Moving on from that, there's quite a few side characters in this. A couple that died really early on, so we didn't really have much of an opinion on them. We've got the gay couple, one who's an astronaut, one who's the policeman. Yeah, they were done pretty well. I was actually expecting the policeman to die in the ship at the end rather than get saved at the last second, but I guess we can't have everyone die, can we? But yeah, okay, I guess it's nice that they lived. That random black guy on the beach. Was he black? I don't know. That random guy on the beach that got murdered by the birds, I don't think they ever even mentioned him after they escaped from the swarm of birds after that point. That was kind of weird. The Brazilian vlogger girl, yeah, done pretty well. Overall, passable. A very passable side cast, I'd say. Nothing particularly memorable as such, I guess. Nope, still can't think of anything more to say. Well, yeah, okay, that's good. So yeah, overall, I'd give this one probably a 6 out of 10, maybe 6.5. This is kind of awkward now, because I think it was better than Orphan 55, which I gave a 6.5 out of 10, I think. So it's got to be better than that, but I don't think it really deserves a 7. Not quite. I'll go 6.8 on this one, just because, yeah, pretty decent. Nothing hugely special, some nice little bits here and there. Kind of different, a little bit unusual, a bit not quite your normal kind of Doctor Who story, so that's good. They did something a little different there, which I always appreciate. Maybe not one that I would consider rewatching straight away all that much. I'd sooner go for Fugitive of the Jadoon or Spyfall. Yeah, for what it's worth, I think this was pretty good. So next week we have Can You Hear Me? This looks to be like a weird, trippy, nightmarish, horror themed episode, so wondering what's going on there. My two biggest questions for next episode is that monster with the claws around that woman in the trailer, what is that? And that oldish guy with no hair who sort of teleported in the trailer and we saw in the mid-series trailer as well. I'm interested to see who that is. I have a feeling he could be very important. Guardian? Eternal? Valiard perhaps? Yeah, see you this time next week for that review of episode 7. We're getting pretty close to the finale now, so yeah. See you everyone.